Hello and welcome to Digital Medboard. Now we are going to discuss about the brain anatomy. Here we go. Now we are looking at the transverse section of the brain. The internal capsule consists of two limbs, the anterior limb and the posterior limb, with a bend in between called the Genu. Medial to the anterior limb of the internal capsule lies the head of the caudate nucleus. Lateral to the internal capsule is the lentiform nucleus, which has two parts, outer putamen and inner globus pallidus. Medial to the posterior limb of the internal capsule are the two thalami. The middle cerebral artery supplies most of the internal capsule. The sensory and motor fibers of the internal capsule pass through the Genu, which is supplied by the middle cerebral artery. If the middle cerebral artery is blocked, particularly the branch supplying one side of the Genu, there will be contralateral sensory motor loss in the head region. The middle cerebral artery, which supplies a separate branch to the posterior limb of the internal capsule. If the branch is damaged more anteriorly, the sensory and motor loss occurs in the upper limb. If the damage is furthermore posterior, sensory and motor loss occurs in the lower limb. The posterior part of the internal capsule contains two types of axon fibers. At first, sublentiform fibers pass beneath the lentiform nucleus to reach the temporal auditory cortex. If these fibers are compromised, sound localization is affected. Next, retrolentiform fibers pass behind the lentiform nucleus to the occipital visual cortex. If the posterior cerebral artery is blocked on the left side of the posterior limb of the internal capsule, it causes contralateral homonymous hemianopia. This means the lesion is on the left side, but the patient loses the vision on the right side. The internal capsule artery supplies are: the majority of the anterior limb is supplied by anterior cerebral artery. Next, the middle cerebral artery. It supplies especially the middle portion, but in general it has branches all over the internal capsule. Then the posterior cerebral artery supplies the posterior limb of the internal capsule. The posterior limb of the internal capsule is also supplied by the anterior choroidal artery, which is a branch of internal carotid artery. If the anterior choroidal artery is blocked, there will be contralateral sensory and motor loss in the upper limb, lower limb, and truncal regions. The anterior limb of the internal capsule carries information from the prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for controlling social behavior. The recurrent artery of the hep node is a branch of anterior cerebral artery. If the recurrent artery of the hep node is blocked, it can lead to problems with social behavior. This question is asking about the arrow mark structure. Starting from the top, the corpus callosum, connects the left and right hemisphere of the brain. Inferiorly, it is the septum pellucidum, which separates the two lateral ventricles, followed by the interventricular foramen of Monro, which drains into the midline third ventricle. Inferior to the septum pellucidum and superior to the third ventricle lies the fornix, which is the arrow-marked region. Therefore, the correct answer is option A, fornix. That's the end of the session. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, share and subscribe to Digital Medboard. Got questions? Drop them in the comments below. See you in the next video. Until then, stay tuned. Cheers.